like you like each other.
Welcome back to the Mountain Morning Show. I'm joined by the two gentlemen from Dark Horse Leadership and Retreats. We have Stephen Jackson to my right, and then to my far right we have Clark Wiscombe. Welcome to the show, you guys. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. Well, we're discussing canyoneering, and I've never done this, and I've been wanting to do it for so long. So to begin with, your company, what got you guys started in this in the first place? It's pretty fun.
Try and wrap that up quickly.
Or pass on the question. I saw that.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of a convoluted story. So, I've been doing it close to 30 years.
Really?
For the first 20 of that, we had no idea that's what we were doing. My father thought exploring slot canyons was fun, and around about 10 years ago, had some friends from a church group ask me to go help them. Went and helped them, and then Clark and I ended up together running a venturing crew of Boy Scouts, and it evolved from there. We ended up, after 2 or 3 years together, getting a lot of phone calls from neighboring scout troops asking us to go help them or take them, and it kind of went from there to where it hit a point where we said we gotta start doing something to get paid. We gotta start getting paid for this more.
Sure. Yeah. Make your hobby, what you like to do on the weekends, make that into your moneymaker.
Yeah.
I like it. So Clark, what is canyoneering? We're looking at some photos here, but there's many folks out there that I know haven't done it before.
So what it is southern Utah has a lot of technical slot canyons. So basically, very cool areas that have been carved out by all sorts of weather and creation, however you want to look at it. And what it is it's where you take a group of people and you run through these canyons. And the nice thing is that when you start from the top, and as you venture through, you have to work as a team. So it's it's not something that you can just quit halfway through. It's once you jump into a canyon, into these deep crevices, you have to go all the way through them. So that's what we do. Okay,
so this is, what I would call true adventure recreation. Like, this is insane. Some of the places you guys go to, they are seemingly untouched. They're so beautiful. Where are the areas you guys go to?
They are. There's a lot of really beautiful areas, and they have very unique flavor, each of them. You have what would probably be considered one of the meccas of the sport would be Zion National Park, and you're going to see a lot of big rappels, a lot of water, a lot of green. It's going to be really pretty in that way. And then there's a lot of areas outside of that. Escalante has a ton out in Lake Powell, around Lake Powell. There's a lot. Those have a different, I guess a way to put it would be maybe a more rugged beauty. Mm-hmm. They're much tighter and require much more physical work, be it climbing and a technique called stemming to gain passage through them. Whereas the ones in Zion National Park are more big rappel, swimming, hike, sure. Big rappel, swim, hike, things like that.
Very good.
They all have their different flavor to them.
Clark, do you have a favorite?
That's hard.
That would be hard.
There's several. There are several in. There's actually one in the Escalante area that it's known as Chop Rock that I would say it's up there on my top 5 probably.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's very remote. It's hard to get to. It's a 3-day trip minimum. Mm-hmm. But the nice thing, it's crazy because you go out there and it's just all this sandstone, and then you've got this beautiful green lush canyon right in the middle of it that, as you're looking across all the different plateaus, you can't see it, but once you get to it, you can drop into it, and it is amazing.
Wow. Tell me about some of the gear that you need when you're going on these treks.
So obviously you're going to have a harness, your harness and a rappel device, something that that you can use to control your speed on a rope, because we use ropes. And then canyons vary from some are dry to where you can, how I'm dressed today in shorts, you can venture through.
A lot of folks in your videos in wetsuits.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of them are wet, mm-hmm. So you have to, and the water doesn't see the sun very often, so it's extremely cold. So one of the things you worry about is keeping yourself warm during the day.
But you guys provide like the helmet and some of the gear, or how does that work?
For our company, yeah. If someone hires us to take them out. all the technical gear, wetsuits, helmets, everything will be provided. The things that someone needs to go and do it, kind of your standard climbing type gear, you're going to need harness, as you mentioned, rappel device, helmet, and then an assortment of other specialized gear, but that as you venture into the sport, you'll figure out the different specialized canyoneering gear.
So my question is, as someone who's never done this before, where do I even start? Because in terms of skill level, I was looking at some of the videos and I was like, man, would I be able to handle that? How does this work? But like you said, it's a group effort. You're helping each other and it's so exciting.
Yeah, it actually, where to start? Obviously, there's a lot of, like anything these days, you can go on the internet and find people to go with. That is, that's a double-edged sword. Yeah, you can get access to other people that are canyoneers, but the quality of education and the quality of experience is going to be very questionable. It's not to say you won't have a great experience, but one of the best ways to start would be to call a company like us and either take a course. It's a great way to get your introductory skills and have an opportunity to practice those basic skills under the eyes of an expert and make sure you've got your basic skills down, and then go and start building upon those.
Describe some of these basic skills. I may not understand some of the words that you're like, what was that one word you mentioned before? The
Stemming?
What is that?
Well,
can you demonstrate?
you don't have a wall.
There's a table. I don't know.
You don't have walls quite long enough. I mean, I could probably do it between these two tables if you really want.
Is it like this? You're holding yourself down?
Yeah.
Okay, I kind of get what you're saying.
What you do?
Never mind. I'll leave you to describe.
What you're doing is you're using the two canyon walls to basically hold yourself up. So you're using opposing pressure with your hands and feet to hold yourself up.
Okay.
And that may be with a foot and hand on each wall, or it may be, if it's wide enough, you may be with feet on one wall and hand on another.
And the reason is because the canyon pinches off enough to where you can't walk through the bottom, so you're forced to be up a little higher.
Oh.
So it's something that it actually intimidates a lot of people. It shouldn't because it's fairly easy.
You laugh at people like, I'm done. I'm going back to the car kind of situation.
No, it's very doable, and once you learn a few tricks and a few techniques to it, it actually becomes very easy. You can rest while you're doing it without wearing yourself out and things like that. So.
Well, and what we enjoy is when you go with a group of people that everybody's different in their skill level, and they work together. You end up helping people through various tasks, and it's fun during the day to watch people do that, work through it.
Yeah.
Because every group's the dynamic changes every time we go. So it's just that's part of the fun, is the people that we get to go with.
Well, as you guys have described some of the necessary skills, it is very valuable, as you've just explained, to work with someone like yourselves to kind of show you the ropes. I guess you could say everywhere from the basics. Like, you need that because it could potentially, like with any big adventure sport, you could get hurt, and you need to make sure that you understand what you're doing. You know where you're going and how to do it.
No, I've heard a couple of people use a term to describe canyoneering as the average Joe's extreme sport.
Yeah.
And it's very it's accessible to anybody.
Sure.
The catch is that it's all fun and games until something goes wrong. We get a lot of people that have the opinion that going canyoneering is just hiking with ropes, and that attitude is fine until you have a minor snafu, and then it becomes very real, because it shares a couple of things with much more extreme sports. For instance, in canyoneering, once you pull your first rope, you're committed to finish the canyon. And oftentimes you're going off of very creative and unusual anchors that you had to build yourself, similar to you'll experience some of the anchor problems in alpine climbing. So that being said, it's accessible to everybody, and it should be enjoyed by everybody. It's just a question of how you go about that.
Very true. You have your smarts about you when you're doing something like this, to be sure. And speaking of some ways that we can get involved with you guys, Clark, you guys do everything from guided adventures, you have youth adventures, and corporate groups as well.
You bet. Yeah, we kind of do everything. We teach classes. Our idea is to try and get to as many people as we can. And like we've talked about, the dynamic of groups is, I mean, youth have a great time, young women, young men, all age groups of people, families. We take all types of people, and we have, the nice thing about canyons is there's so many different varieties of canyons that we have something to fit everybody's needs, and we can look at a group and talk to them and find a place that will be good for them, where they'll have a good time, and push them a little bit, but not too much.
I like that. You understand, and it seems like you guys would understand well a person's limits, allowing them to do something that maybe they didn't think they could do before, but still holding it in so they don't, get lost in that process.
Yeah, so I mean, we want them to be scared a little bit.
Laughing at these, like, so are there bad stories that have taken place or people that have freaked out?
Actually, no, but
That's good.
It's just funny because
I believe you.
We don't want when we take something, we don't want them to hate it. But if at the end of the day they're not entirely happy, that's okay, because usually by the next day they're ecstatic. We want them to be. A good day is when you're so exhausted that it takes at least 8 hours to remember why it was fun.
Nice. I like that. That's a good description of it.
Well, just an example is some of the groups that we've taken of a few young men. They one of the reasons that we knew that they had a good day is they would fall asleep in the dirt. So we actually have a few photos, and we have their faces are in the dirt, and they're just sleeping on the ground.
Oh, that's great. I like that. Very cool.
That was a good day.
That sounds like a good one. I'll say, if we are interested in getting in touch with you guys to go on one of these adventures, how do we go about doing that?
Well, go ahead.
Sorry, I should say.
No, it's okay.
I just look in the general direction.
No, so the easiest way is, like everything else, go online, go to www.darkhorseleadership.com, and there'll be phone numbers and email to contact us, as well as links to some other things that we're helping to run, and that's really the best way to get in touch with us.
Very good. We have about a minute left, and I have to mention real quickly your name, Dark Horse Leadership. Obviously, there's a connection to what you're doing when it comes to canyoneering. When you think of the teamwork that you build there?
Well, that came about. Is
that another thing?
No, we better hurry though. So that actually came about with a couple of youth groups and working with them, and really seeing the growth and the leadership characteristics come out in young men as we took them out. And we had an opportunity with we had several adults with us on a couple of trips, and one paid us an extremely high compliment. But from his work, he gets sent to team building and leadership conferences all the time, and he paid us an extremely high compliment, pulled us aside at the end of the trip and said, you guys have done a better job teaching leadership and team building and all these other attributes than any conference I've ever been to. And so as we talked a little more and more, what we realized is, and talking with him, we realized that it's not that Clark or I is a better teacher than anybody else out there teaching corporate groups about team building or leadership in a hotel or anything like that. We have a better classroom, and it's because we don't have to come up with anything. We can teach it, but really the classroom is what does it, because it's organic. It just happens. As we go through the canyon, these things come together. People will step up and be leaders. They will work as a team. They will communicate. They will do all of those things, or they won't get through. And so it's real simple.
That's amazing.
They learn what problem solving really is.
Yeah.
Wow. In the real world, literally.
In the real world. And it's one where we can give them the feeling of, we can leave them with the feeling of it being life or death. Now, it's not. Clark and I are standing there over their shoulder making sure that nothing's going to happen and nothing will happen. If it comes down to it, we step in and keep the group moving. But it allows them to function under that stress and function as a team under stress, but it's not contrived.
Sure. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And once again, if you want to get in touch with them, that's Dark Horse Leadership and Retreats. We'll be right back after this commercial break to share with you some fun fly fishing tips with Park City Anglers.